Bush's 1994 Key West Superboat World Championship. Brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West, the real Florida.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Hendrick, along with Dick Crippen. And, Dick, we become part of offshore racing history.
Yeah, this is by far the largest fleet of offshore boats that's ever been assembled at any one point. We've got 3 sanctioning bodies that have come together for the purpose of claiming world champions. And, Jim, that means that whoever wins in each class will truly be a world champion.
We started out the week with 148 entries in 9 different classes. The water has been rough all week. And, Dick, what about these conditions today?
Well, we're looking at 3 to 5 foot seas right now as the boats get ready to go out, but they are building, and that's what's important. The winds are going upwards of about 18 knots, so we're going to have to be very careful. There are going to be a lot of holes on that course.
And, of course, we'll be covering the 2 major classes, the Superboat and the Open. Lots of action here at the P.R. Cardine Key West World Championship race in Key West, Florida.
And, Jim, a special guest on hand to introduce him, John Carbonell, president of Superboat Racing.
I'd like to introduce the Grand Marshal of this race, Hulk Hogan.
Well, guys, thank you very much, brother. I've wrestled from Madison Square Garden all the way to Tokyo, and I've never seen this much muscle before in my whole life. And as the Reverend trips over the court, like I said, I've never seen this much muscle in my whole life from Madison Square Garden to Tokyo. I want to wish you guys the best of luck. And gentlemen, when you get a chance, you can go ahead and start those engines, brother. I like it.
Hulk Hogan giving the signal to the drivers to go ahead and start their engines. Hulk Hogan himself, the star of Thunder in Paradise television show. There you see his boat. That's the boat on the show called Thunder. And so he knows a little bit about what we're looking at here, Jim.
Here is a brand new 46-foot well-crafted Scarab, our pace boat. Hulk Hogan's aboard as they lead the fleet out onto the race course.
The boats will be paying a lot of attention to the pace boat. There you see the Brooks Athletic Shoes boat coming out right behind him. Some of the boats still at the dock. One of them, the Argentine team. There's Daniel Scioli. Now, he is a driver who was in a very serious accident, but recovered and came back and is back out here to race. And who are these gentlemen?
Your channel has not changed. These are the Argentine announcers back to Argentina live today for this World Championship, and they're well represented.
And it's truly a World Championship. Here are some of the top foreign boats. You can see Argentina, 2 from Japan, Puerto Rico, 1 from Canada, and we have 1 from Italy, the Republic of Venice, among others. But they'll all be chasing an American. The winner Wednesday, Jerry Gelbreth and Alcone Motorsports.
I think it's unsurpassed. I think here in Key West for the first time we've got representatives from all over the world, and we're really looking forward to racing them again. We've done a lot of testing with this boat, so we knew our setup going into any conditions, and I think that was a big advantage. We've got Mercruiser power, and we keep the boat at Lake X in Orlando, and so we've done, Mr. Alcone has allowed me to do any kind of testing that we need to do, so we've proven the boat in any condition.
The wind has picked up pretty good out on the water, and now the boats are milling around. We're just about to start. Let's take a look at our main competitors.
All right, Dick, Daniel Scioli will drive the Argentina entry, and Fabio Buzzi of Italy is his Throttleman. That's a pretty good combination.
And you'll note that that boat is a deep V-bottom hold boat. This is a catamaran. Stuart Ham and Joey Imprescia aboard Recovery, number 27. That's a boat with a great story we'll be talking about. But right now, let's concentrate on the start of this race. As they mill around, we're inside with Joey Imprescia and Stuart Ham. Now we look at our top Superboat lineup. Jerry Gelbreth, who, of course, won out here in Alcone Motorsports earlier this week, is the lead boat as they go into this final race, which will determine the World Championships in Superboats. The boats mill around, and as they come up, they will form up behind the pace boat for the start.
In the cockpit, looking over the shoulder of Stuart Ham, driving the Recovery. The Throttleman is Joey Impression. We're about to start Superboats as 15 Superboats head out for a 150-mile grueling test.
And you can see Stewart is fighting the wheel as he jockeys for position. This is where the boats set the pace. He wants to get right up in amongst the lead boats. If he's going to have a chance at all to overtake any of them, he's got to be up there, and you can see he's trying to split them now as they head out. A great sight here in Key West, Florida. They will go 150 miles, 10-mile laps, 15 of those laps. It's going to be a grueling race. On board the open class Gifford Marine boat as they look through for the start. On board shooters with Anthony Izzo driving that boat. Then we switch over to Carlton Myers, who's on board How Sweet It Is. All of these boats in the open class milling around now. There's your top lineup, and as you can see, it is an international field. Top boats in the open class division. And once again, a pace boat has been brought onto the course. The boats are milling around now, are starting to pull in behind the pace boat for the start.
As they come out of the Bay Area, here's the start of the open class. 14 competitors will battle 150 miles as we're inside the shooters right now. Anthony Izzo of Johnston, Rhode Island. His Throttleman is Rick Conti from Miami, Florida. And look at the ride they're getting. This isn't rough yet, Dick. It's going to get worse.
Well, first of all, they've got to hit more open water, but even here in the bay, when they come back in, the boats ahead of them are, of course, the superboats. They're going to churn the water up a little bit more. Each lap that goes by, that water will get a little bit worse out there. You've got to remember that these guys have to be not only concerned about the boats around them, but the water ahead of them. This is a constantly changing course, and it will... Pierre Cardin watches 1994 Key West Superboat World Championship from Key West, Florida. This is Stuart Hyam in the boat Recovery. You can see he is battling the Argentine boat on the outside of his screen. If you look to your left of center, way up there, you see a rooster tail flying high. That is the lead boat in the Superboats, Alcone Motorsports. He's doing a good job of commanding the field.
And remember, he's looking to repeat. A couple of days ago, he won round one in class. As we look down at Daniel Scioli, if you will, from Argentina, and that is a deep V boat. Seems he slowed down a little bit, Dick, and the Recovery is taking over second place behind the Alcone.
Well, as we pull back on the shot from the helicopter, you can see where the split is right now. Recovery has moved up into second place overall in the field. Alcone Motorsports is still your leader. So Stuart Hyam appears to be in the position to take over the lead if anybody at all can do so. Let's jump back to the open class now. They are continuing their challenge on these waters off of Key West. Katana, the Japanese boat, they're doing a good job of handling. Look at the way they've got that boat trimmed out. He's very light on the water. He's literally going wave to wave. He's not getting the bottom of the boat down into the water at all. He's staying airborne. To his right is this boat. How sweet it is. We are on board with Carlton Myers right now. He is battling, but he knows off to his left. He's got the Japanese competitor coming on extremely strong. They're flying the boat high. They've really got themselves running in a very good position.
And we're still, of course, chasing Team Gentry, who is leading the open boats. Here's the modifieds, the third class of the day, getting their start back in the bay.
You can see that the water is very rough for these other classes as they get started. The production boats, the P boats, are also coming up on the start line now. Let's join the crew of Hurricane. Steve Page is the driver.
He's coming up.
Yep. Here he comes. Here he comes. All right. All right.
Look at them all trying to get a jump.
Okay, there we go.
We're eavesdropping aboard the Hurricane. You can hear the Throttleman and the driver talking to each other. Let's listen in.
Patriot's coming over on me.
Just hold your line.
Okay.
We gotta go. Just.
This is great to be able to hear the communication between the Throttleman and the driver.
That's all right. Okay, start coming to the right a little.
I'm coming. I just want to get around him. Here we go.
Whoa, not that much. Keep it straight. Keep it straight. Don't get behind him. We got a whole ocean out here. Don't worry about it.
That's where we're going now.
4 classes are competing. We just had the pro stock starting out. Now here's a look at your Superboat. Open, Modified, and the Pro 1, the P boats, are all racing today. They have different lengths, different horsepower, and here's a course that was set back in 1977, which sometimes to the navigators was confusing. Today, here in 1994, a more simpler course tailored to the spectators, and from Mallory Square, they can see the whole race course, Dick.
That's one of the things they've tried to do in offshore racing, is to bring it into the spectators so they don't have to wait for the boats to come in. But speaking of boats coming in, Matt Alcone and Jerry Gilbreth, here they come in Alcone Motorsports. This is the boat that is leading in the Superboats. Boy, has that boat been out on the water today. 107 miles per hour. What speed they are able to maintain, because this water continues to be on the rough side.
Here comes your second place in the Superboat, Stuart Hyam in the Recovery. They've now negotiated a 10-mile course. Lap number 1 and 5 miles off the face is Stuart Hamm in recovery. As we look at Daniel Scioli from Argentina, a solid third, but first in the deep V class.
That's right. We're racing two types of holes out here. We'll have championships in both of them. The deep V, this boat that you're looking at, is leading his class, but is running third overall in the Superboat. The two boats ahead of them are both catamaran boats. There's Ted Savarese in excess, and there's Argentina. Again, it almost looks like he slows down a little bit, but I think he's just grabbing more water as he comes around. The boat kind of settles in a little bit, and Daniel Scioli is getting back onto it. Here's Tom Gentry. This boat has done a fine job. He's leading in the open at this point.
As we're aboard Gifford Marine once again, you can see the communications between the Throttleman on the left and the driver on the right. And once again, Steve Page and his throttle jockey are having a continued conversation. Our camera's right above the cockpit and gets a lot of water, and I think it's good for effect.
And if you watch Anthony Uzzo's head inside that cockpit, you'll see just how rough this water is, and that's for the entire race. Remember, they're going to have to go 150 miles in the Superboats to complete this course. I'm telling you, these guys take a beating. You don't realize the gravitational pull or the G's that these drivers experience. There's the boat out of Canada, Lauren Leibel. He is in the number 77, running 5th in the open class behind the Team Gentry boat.
And of course, it's Harold Smitty Smith at the throttles as we look at the Argentinian entry once again, the YPF, currently running third in class.
And this is racing by day, but it's entertainment by evening at Mallory Square every night in Key West. Tripping along with Jim Hendrick as we look at the course. There's the second place boat in the open class. There's your leader, Team Gentry, the number 9 boat. Tom Gentry piloting that boat. Aboard the Japanese entry is Kimitoshi Hositani from Japan, and his Throttleman is from America, Miami, Florida to be exact, Bobby Moore. They are now in second place, and they are concerned not only with gaining on the lead boat, Team Gentry, but staying ahead of the number 39 boat on your screen. That's how sweet it is riding in third.
We are now on lap number 2 of 15 laps to go in a 10-mile course down in turn number 1, looking at the third place. How sweet it is with Carlton Myers. Now we go ahead to the Katana second place. Now, Team Gentry. Tom Gentry at the wheel, catching up to the Superboat. Would you believe that?
Tom Gentry's got a real first-class entry into this race, no question about it. He certainly drives hard. He's got Richie Powers on the throttle with him. Team Gentry now moving up in the field to join the Superboats and run up with them for just a little while. Now, you've got to be concerned with safety. You obviously have to know where you're going and what you're going to do on the course. How do you do all this? They hold drivers' meetings before the races to explain all of the intricacies of the course. It is an interesting thing to listen to and to be a part of. Let's take a look at it.
Number 13, Spirit of Houston.
Right now, at this point of the meeting, they're taking a roll call to make sure that they're all there. If they miss the meeting, they're ineligible to start. This was taking place earlier this morning.
3 sanctioning bodies have come together for the race. Don Jones is vice president of the APBA.
Superboat Racing, John Carbonell's group, has done an outstanding job. We're here with U.S. Offshore and the Puerto Rican Offshore and APBA. And this is history. This is the largest offshore racing event ever held. We're just proud to be a part of it, and I think it's probably an omen for what's coming up.
We're intermingling the Superboats with the open class right now on the same lap. That, of course, is the Brooks Athletic Shoes, which is an open class. This is the Superboat gone clear, Jim Robinson. Speaking of the Brooks Athletic Shoes, the Throttleman is Steve Curtis. He won Wednesday. I had a chance to talk to him. It's an international crew. They come from the United States, they come from Norway, and the Throttleman, Steve Curtis, from England. Now, you have a leg up on this championship. How is your strategy going to work today?
Well, the main boat we've got to worry about is Bob Moore in Katana, and really we just want to sit down and watch him run and see how he does. We're going to carry the same sort of strategy as we did on the first race, try and get out front and run our own race, but not to be too hard on the equipment.
We've talked about the rough water on this course and how it's getting even rougher, and of course equipment is the main concern. You take a beating in those boats as a human being, but the engines and everything else can also take a big beating. Now look out on the course. Coming in now, leading the Superboats is number 27, Stuart Hamm. Now this is interesting because Alcone Motorsports was leading. We don't know where that boat is on the course. We're going to have to check out. Apparently, they had some kind of engine problems. But if Stewart has moved up in the first place, then this boat, Daniel Scioli, has moved into second place. This is a diesel engine V-bottom. He does tend to slow down a little bit, and as he does, Team Gentry comes up in there. Now, the Argentine boat will try to accelerate, but right now, Team Gentry is overtaking him. You know, before these guys got on the course today, we had a special test run for them. They go through a dunk test in case one of the boats goes over.
And it does simulate an upside-down situation. Here to explain is Superboat Medical Director Charlie Bass.
As the boats switched to the cockpits with the enclosed canopies and the restraint systems, we wanted to have a way to teach the drivers under controlled circumstances how to get out of their cockpits. By putting them through this, it doesn't have the same impact, but it does have the disorientation, and it teaches them basically how to get out of their boat in one piece and self-extricate. It's a little nerve-wracking the first time you go through. The disorientation is, even in a pool in clear water, it's realistic.
You can see sometimes there's a little panic. If any of the drivers would get into a problem, safety assistants are there to help extricate them.
And this is an actual driver. This is Lisa Greger, who drives the P7 Patriot. It is a scary experience.
Okay? We got you control.
First time they do it for that year, they are a little nervous going through it because it's been a while. However, by the second time they go through it, it's like, you know, they've done it before and they're very comfortable with it. Down here, in Key West, the water is very clear. Most places, the races is zero visibility. There's the big opportunity for panic to creep in there on you, and if you practice this, once you've got your air system in your mouth and you're breathing in the air, you know, you got a chance to think about it a little bit and remember. And everybody that we've talked to has said, you know, all of a sudden it comes back to you, 1, 2, 3, how to get out.
Well, maybe not quite that easy, Charlie. But anyway, here's Lisa Greger, who you just saw in the pool. Now she's out on the course, and she is racing in the P7 Patriot.
Still more racing to go here at Key West, Florida, and we'll be back with all the action after this timeout.
Seen on ESPN. You can experience the thrill in your own home for only $29.95 with never-before-seen footage of the racing action. Watch these daring men and women battle up seas and tough competitors.
Key West World Championships, where the boats are out there running, and sometimes in very rough water. Let's go to Dick Crippen.
Jim, you can see the rough water on the course now as they are hitting open ocean. Bjorn Jelston is the driver for Brooks Athletic Shoes, and he has got to be battling out there all the time, although he's got a very good trim on the boat right at the moment. You can see he's skipping wave to wave, but off to his right as the boat he's trying to catch, that's the Bob Kaiser boat known as Systems. Errol Lanier is the Throttleman for that boat. That boat will put up a very solid battle. This man knows what it's like to be in the winner's circle. He's a former world champ.
Right now, we're on board the number 27 Recovery, Stuart Heyman, looking over his shoulder. We have a report that the number 11 boat, the Alcone Motorsports, is out of the race after losing control on a very rough section of this course. So now you know the conditions are worsening.
Well, we know it's an international field. Here's Arasaki, the boat from Japan, another one of the Japanese entries. This is interesting because that hull is one piece. They actually broke away the mold to get the hull out. It is a one-piece hull. Right now, it is still riding very solid on the course, and this course is getting very rough.
Now, you look at the Argentinians and you look at the Japanese, and both those countries will be carrying some offshore racing next year by satellite. Now, here's the difference in the boats. This is a deep V. You see how the hull comes down? We're talking about the two different style of boats. That's a deep V. Look at the side view. You see it comes right down to the V, right down in the water. Now, here is a catamaran. It's like two hulls with a flying wing, and they skim over the water. Learning more about the catamaran, let's go to a special guest. Dick Crippen is with him right now.
Errol Lanier listed on the side of the boat as co-pilot as opposed to Throttleman.
Yeah, well, we're going to probably be spending a lot of time in the air tomorrow, so a good pilot is a good name for us tomorrow.
Errol, talk to us a little bit about this particular boat. It is a catamaran. Why the catamaran?
Catamaran is, it's just a little more stable at the higher speeds. When we reached the speed of about 90 miles an hour and stuff like that, we had to graduate with something else because the V-bottoms, they just can't control it as the cats do today.
Well, as Errol Lanier was talking, he's Throttleman aboard the Systems boat, and you saw that boat literally leave this V-bottom in excess. Ted Savarese behind there. You can see the distance between the two as they pass the big ocean liner in the back.
Here is Labatt with Lauren Leibel driving in. Harold Smitty Smith on the throttles in open class, splitting a couple of the boats, including High Risk there, as he goes back out to open water coming out of the harbor.
And, of course, that boat is from Canada. This boat is from Puerto Rico. Junior Figueroa is the driver. The Throttleman on the boat is John Tomlinson. As we say, it is a Puerto Rican entry. It is riding very well in this rough water. They probably have some good water to test in down there.
And look at Labatt with Lauren Leibel and Smitty Smith now, passing the number 69 boat, Venus, out here in a little rougher water on lap number 4 of 15.
We switch now to the modified class of boats, and there you see Robert Mueller driving Tropic Heat, and he is gaining on the M39. Remember how sweet it is? You rode in the cockpit of that boat earlier on. This is the sister boat on the center portion of your screen, the red boat called How Sweet It Is 2. Oh, yes, it is. Right now, though, not so sweet because it's being passed up on the inside by Tropic Heat. You can see he crossed over the wake of one of the other boats, found a little bit smoother water, and managed to grab a little more water.
We're looking at the number 38, a deep V cigarette called the Cigarette Lady 2. And why? Because Anna Delva, who won round number 1 in class, is behind the wheel. And that boat is coming out of the water, riding pretty good, but it'll leap and leaps and bounds and come out for a good 10 to 20 feet before settling back. There it goes, flying out, and the Throttleman has to be quick. As we look at the Tom Gentry team, Mean Gentry, Richie Powers on the throttles. They're coming back into the harbor, pretty smooth water. Throttleman, very important. Dick Griffin talked to Richie Powers about throttling earlier.
Let's talk about the job of the Throttleman, though. You know, one of the most exciting things we see in the sport is the boats as they fly high off of the waves. But that's your most critical time.
Well, it's the most critical time. Nowadays we're going so fast in the boats that we're really not reading the water per se like we used to in the old V-bottoms and stuff like that. It's just kind of, I think your bottom end is connected with your right hand, and it tells you what to do, and your brain kicks in the rest of the way. So we're going awfully fast, and it's a hard job out there.
A hard job that looks a lot easier with a team like Team Gentry, because behind the wheel is one of the top drivers on the circuit from Honolulu, Hawaii, Tom Gentry.
Tom Gentry is a 5-time world champion. He's hoping to get another championship here today, but recently in San Diego, you set the new kilo-mile record run, right?
Right. We were able to do that at 157 or 253 kilometers per hour.
Weren't you one of the first guys to go New York to London nonstop?
Oh, yeah. We set that record, too, but that was after the second attempt. It was a tough go, but a good run, and we broke 18 hours off the record.
Where does the Gentry racing team go from here?
Oh, we're working on some new stuff. You know, always something new, keep us busy. I don't know about the circuit racing. We're wrapped up in a new transatlantic boat right now, so we may have to drop this for a while again.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
Tom Gentry of the Team Gentry team. Of course, earlier you heard from Richie Powers, the Throttleman of that team. These two guys doing a great job out on the waters off of Key West, Florida for the World Championships of Offshore Powerboats. By night, the drivers and their wives and families have enjoyed Duval Street. But in fact, Stewart himself has recovered from cancer. As a result, all of the money he earns with the boat goes off to cancer research, and he also serves as an inspiration to both those on shore as well as those he races against.
As they look at recovery making the turn here in the harbor, we now go back to the open class, and William Gifford, the driver of the Gifford Marine entry. Lots of officials on hand. Let's go to Dick with a special guest.
We've been talking about the combination of the sanctioning bodies. Phil Crawford is here with us. He's president of the United States Offshore Association. And Phil, it is great to see all of the guys come together.
You got to know it. You got to know it. We've been here before with John and the SPR group, but we missed having APBA involved. And this year, through the cooperative efforts of everyone, we've been able to get all three groups together. I'm very happy to see it, and it shows that offshore racing is very viable as a motorsport when you come out and you see what goes on here.
To his left, cross his weight, Steve, get away from the wall, cross his weight.
There's some instructions coming from Steve Page's Throttleman aboard the Hurricane. As we look at in excess now, he's picked up some speed. Ted Severese has found some horsepower in excess right now, and he's battling the number 69 Venus and giving a bead on the System 7 boat, which of course is our buddy Bobby Kaiser.
Bob Kaiser and Errol Lanier, and they are still trying to hold that boat in contention out there, and that's the black boat on the outside. You know, this is unusual at this point in the race to have 3 boats in the same class going side by side, and here comes How Sweet It Is. Boy, they are really putting the power to it. You know what's happened here, Jim? They found a little bit of smooth water. You'll notice the boats aren't flying quite as high right now. They're all taking advantage of it. They're all trying to find a little extra horsepower, and they're all trying to move into contention. This is really a tight race. Now, the Argentine boat is holding in second place overall in the Superboat competition. He is now in first place as far as the V-bottom boats in Superboat. Earlier this week, that boat had problems.
Been working 5 days like crazy on the boat. We sank Wednesday and nearly sank in the sense that we went on the island, but the 4 engine was submerged and the 4 tanks was full of water. Still now, I'm very afraid that I will stop it by the water into the tanks. I didn't arrive. We have the sponge inside the foam, and the foam is full of water. So I will try to do my best, but maybe I have to stop because of the water and the fuel or something else. The boat is too new, honestly. We tested 1 hour on the lake, put in a plane and send over here. It's going great, in any case. You will see. I promise.
It is an amazing story. Here is the watermark on that boat. Now, you wonder, how did all that diesel fuel and all that get all over the boat? They have been working hard. You can see they had to tear the engines all the way down. Wait till you see what happened. This is from the other day. Watch it. The boat gets airborne, goes to its side. Look at that! How in the world that boat stayed up, Jim, I don't know. It looked like it was going to go over.
Whoa, that's an exciting ride, but he's back in action today. He's hoping to hold it all together, as Fabio told us. Slow motion, take a look. Rock and roll on the chime. The deep bottom boat gets up on the left sponson, almost goes over. It looks like he just tripped up on the skid fin, and that clapped him back down and prevented him from making a complete barrel roll.
Here's an idea of how these boats are made. This is the actual boat that is racing on the course for Argentina today as it's being removed from its mold. You know, this thing was put together so fast in about 60 days. They only had a chance, as Fabio said, to run it out on the lake for about an hour or so to get the feel of the boat. They brought it up here, and they're doing great with it right now. It was actually built in under 60 days. They are using diesel power. This is in Argentina.
Dick is starting to rise. Some of the boats are coming in and limping in. Some will have to be towed. Let's look at the attrition scoreboard.
Well, we have Jaws is out. As you can see, they've got their cockpits open, and they are coming in. Bonanza, the P-105, one of the boats from Puerto Rico. Anthony Izzo, who we were riding in the cockpit with earlier, you can see he's not racing anymore. Bob Guzzo, driver of Extractor, also coming in the modifieds. And the Italian entry, the Republic of Venice, Sergio Mion, is also out of it. However, Katana, the Japanese entry, is doing just fine. The Throttleman from Miami, Florida, he talked with Jim Hendrick before the race.
I've always called him the veteran Throttleman, and that's what he is. He is now throttling for the Japanese in this particular World Championship. What's it going to take to win today? Bobby Moore.
Well, I'm going to have to run harder than I did Wednesday. Steve Curtis really put a good whipping on us. I really didn't see him go out front, and he snuck away from me, but we'll see what happens. I know I'm going to have to run a lot harder than I did Wednesday.
Bobby Moore, the Throttleman on the Japanese entry, Katana. That boat is having a very good ride. This boat also very good. You met Lisa Greger before when she was in the pool getting turned upside down at Patriot. There you can see she's battling Alan Steele aboard Restore, the P4. Lisa right now has command, but boy, she has really got to be aware of where Alan Steele is all the way around. Also, the P71 coming up, Richard Felsen in high risk.
Notice, Dick, he still rides with no canopy or no windshield. That's the way he likes to race. But he's serving notice to the boats Restore and Hurricane. That's all in crossbow.
He's going out meaning some big business. Let's get on board again with Harmsco Hurricane.
Whoa, that boat just hooked to the right. Hold on.
That's communication between the driver and the Throttleman. They've got to be attuned to all the boats on the course. What sounds like the on and off of the engine is actually the boat flying across the water. Here's Alan Steele aboard Restore, the P4. Alan is a long-time driver who's really fought hard to keep this sport up in the forefront.
I'll tell you, I see for the first time camaraderie with all the racers. So I really believe it's a beginning of a new era in offshore powerboat racing.
It's an exciting thing to see because this is really what you want as a competitor. You want to take on these guys.
Absolutely. Even our pro stock fleet, we've got like I think over 15 boats of pro stock, and I mean some of the best drivers in the world are here. I mean, what better field to race in when they're the best?
As we look at Alan Steele in competition right now, here's your leader in the Superboat, Stuart Ham in the recovery. They lead in the Superboat class now as we're getting near the end of this race. Hang on, it's a tight turn as we look at Team Gentry. Tom Gentry and Richie Powers teaming up there. They lead in the open class. Here is the Argentine entry, Danielle Scioli. He needs a first place in a fast time here today to beat out the number 38 Cigarette Lady because she had won the race last Wednesday.
Well, this is Key West, Florida, and it wouldn't be Key West without looking around a little bit, so let's introduce you to just a little bit of this fine, fine area. Harry S. Truman had the little White House here. Ernest Hemingway, probably the best known of all the Key Westers. And the beautiful architecture, the beautiful weather, it all goes together to make it perfect. Art is a big thing, as you might expect in Key West, Florida. There are art galleries all over the place, as well as coffee shops and fine eating establishments. Art in glass blowing. Yep, you can see it right here in Key West, Florida. It's a great place for a vacation, a great place to race, and of course, if you're into water sports, there is no better place to come than Key West, Florida. This guy will tell you, and I'll tell you what, you better listen to these guys.
These are scenes, Dick, that you'll see if you go snorkeling, and you don't even have to get in the water to see the wildlife. You can pick it up yourself. Look at this. And if you want to feed the tarpon that come inside, look at the kids. This is educational. Watch this. Boom, and that tarpon takes that just like that. Lots of fun, lots of things to see at Key West. A beautiful place to visit.
To the Pierre Cardin World Championships of Key West, Florida. They are exciting. There's lots of action on the course. Here's how the boats are standing at this point.
Dick, before we check in the Superboat class, here's Jeff Soper driving the Exide Nautilus Battery entry. We haven't seen him all day. Seems to be riding pretty good. Here's the way they stand in the Superboat Cats. Recovery Exide systems gone clear. The top three. In the Superboat Deep V, it's Danielle Scioli in Argentina, In Excess, Cigarette Lady, Fountain, and Republic.
Leading in the open class, this boat, Team Gentry. Tom Gentry and Richie Powers. The Japanese entry, Katana, is next with Carlton Myers, and How Sweet It Is in third, followed by Venus Swimwear. A world champion watches from the sidelines, Mr. Bernie Little.
Here at the World Championships, another world champion for many, many times, Bernie Little, owner of the Miss Budweiser. And Bernie, not only have you been champions in Unlimiteds, but offshores, you've had your success.
Yeah, I truly have. Needless to tell you, Jim, we've Budweiser, Michelob Light, we've followed offshores for probably 30-some years. So we've been fortunate enough to win world championships in offshore and Unlimiteds. And as you know, we just concluded in Honolulu, and the Miss Budweiser is the new 1994 world champion.
And speaking of Honolulu, that happens to be the hometown for the entry known as Team Gentry. Tom Gentry, a citizen of the Honolulu area. Let's talk a little bit, Jim, about how some of the other classes are doing. We had other races earlier in the day today.
And I might add, Dick, that the Sportsman B, Offshore C, Stock, Production A, and Factory racing a little shorter race, raced in smoother water. In the C class, the 69 Ragamuffin, the red boat at the top of your screen, beats out the Sudden Impact, who finished overall second. From Mount Clemens, Michigan, Eastern Express. Joe Persavy, from my hometown of Mount Clemens, finished overall third. In the Sportsman B class, the winner was William Feister, driving the Buckshot B30. Second place in that class went to Magic Potion, driven by Rob Storley, the driver. He has a Throttleman and also has a navigator aboard. Magic Potion finishing second. Team Cigarette, the B124. That's the team that was steady all day long, rode well, and finished overall third here earlier in the day. In the stock class, here was the start. Boy, they had a lot of boats out there, and we had a pretty good spectator fleet on hand and thousands more on the shore. The winner of the stock class was the 7-Up Uncola machine, the overall winner. Second place went to Mobile One, and that team. Third place went to the S69, which was Bodyguard, riding with 2 Mercury outboard engines. In the stock outboard class, it was the winner S9, the Cutting Edge. Alan Butler, the driver, also outboard power S number 9. Production A winner went to the RC Marine. The Offshore A-class winner was Frank's Marine, and the F-22 Hyperactive won the factory class. The weather out here is starting to worsen. The rollers are coming in. Let's go to Dick Crippen.
Well, if you can't tell by the seas, you can probably tell by my hair. The wind has picked up to about 24 knots. The problem is the boats are going into the turn. They're okay, but as they hit the turn, they then hit head-on into the wind, and it lifts my hand even as I do that. Then as they come out, it lifts up the right side of the boat. They've got to be extremely cautious in this turn behind me.
As we looked at Bob Muller, the driver of Throttleman, keeps battling the modified How Sweet It Is. As the water continues to worsen, the sister ship in the open class, How Sweet It Is, let's go on board with the driver, Carlton Meyer. Now, Dick, we've had a report that the leader in open, Team Gentry, has flipped in the harbor.
Apparently, that boat simply rolled over as it came out of the turn, and Tom Gentry and Richie Powers still aboard the boat. But look at the divers going in. 1, 2, 3, 4 divers are in the water already, trying to get to that boat and get underneath so they can release the driver. This is a helicopter shot. It breaks up occasionally with the microwave. Don't worry about it. Right now, our concern is with the driver and the Throttleman for Team Gentry. We'll be back. The rescue crews are still on the scene outside of the turn by Mallory Square, where the Team Gentry boat has gone over. Arasaki was coming into the turn. The 2 boats, one on the inside was Recovery. Team Gentry was on the outside. It appeared like Team Gentry tried to come in a little bit. Recovery stayed to the inside of Arasaki, and as they came out of the turn, it looked like Team Gentry may have caught a wake, and he went up and over. He didn't flip, he just rolled over onto the top. We'll wait to have a further report on how the driver and Throttleman are.
The leader in the Superboat class continues to be Recovery, driven by Stuart Ham, and he looks at he's in a pretty smooth part of the course here on Key West. Now we're looking at the Gifford Marine. William Gifford is the driver. He's coming into the harbor, and he's real close to shore and to that marker buoy near the pier house, and I think he hooked it, Dick.
It looked like he did. He hooked the boat. There you can see the boat has survived it. Let's see. This is from inside. We go back to a replay on the inside. As Jim said, he was a little bit close coming in. He tries to correct on the turn. It throws the back end around. We even lose the signal momentarily. But there you can see the driver and the Throttleman appear to be a little bit wet. But all right. Not so the boat. It took some damage. You can see how it's twisted around on the back end of that boat. Meanwhile, back on the Team Gentry scene, Jim.
Well, we have a report now. They've taken the driver and the Throttleman to a local medical facility for examination. We'll have a further report.
On the course, the man still leading in the Superboats is now coming into the home stretch. That's Stuart Ham. The course is clear, incidentally, for the finish of this race. There you see Recovery, number 27. That's Stuart Ham. And he comes across for the checkered flag. There it is, flying high. He is the Superboat World Champion. We congratulate Stu Ham and Joey Imprescio. He is the Throttleman on that boat. They did a great job. Now, coming in the open class, it's Katana, the Japanese entry. As we say, the Throttleman, Bobby Moore out of Miami, Florida. They are the open class world champion. A great job of driving and a great job of throttling. I know they've got to be happy, as has this crew, Jim.
Oh, yes, from Argentina. They'll finish second overall, but they win the World Championship Deep V title. Very important with this brand new boat, and a few days ago almost went completely over. They do win the Deep V Championship. And if things remain the way they are, in modified, Bruce Penhall and Ocean Spray will take the checker flag in that class.
And in the production or P-boat class, it should be Alan Steele in Restore. Now, remember, they are still finishing on the course, so that is not an absolute at this point. The only 2 classes to have finished is the Open and the Super, and here is a world champion. We'll join him in a moment.
Superboat Championship has been won by recovery. Let's go to Dick Crippen.
Well, Stuart, you took it during the first lap, and it just seemed to be a flawless performance from that point on.
Oh, Dick, thank you. As I told you earlier in the first interview, we had a tough time Wednesday. I told you we found 16 miles an hour. The Mercruiser system from day one, I've won 3 world championships with them in a row in this very marina. Flawless, never missed a beat.
It was a tough race because there was some accidents out there. There was a lot of holes in the waters. We saw a couple of boats go out, and all of a sudden we didn't see them anymore. I mean, but yet you stayed right up there.
That's the whole concept behind a 45-foot boat, to be able to run at a higher average sustained speed. We were able to do it. There were some real big holes out there. They came out of nowhere. In fact, we ran an extra lap. I did one flyby just to be absolutely sure we had it right. And on that extra lap, we landed one. The boat came down sideways, and it worked out.
Well, the Argentinians, are they happy? They're the Deep V champions. Once again, here's Dick.
I'll tell you what, Fabio, first of all, when we saw you yesterday, your crew was working so hard for 4 days to get this boat ready. This has got to be a reward.
Yeah, that is the real winning for us, for me and my crew, because it's not 4 work of job, or 64, because that boat was built in 60 days, which is nearly impossible. We have done the model, the mold, the boat in 60 days. If you want to be competitive, you need to have a boat built in a very short time, otherwise it's old.
Daniele, what do you think of this crew that works with you?
It's great. It's their win, because especially leading by Fabio, had a fantastic team. I think the record was, the title was to make the boat in 60 days. So it's just a sophisticated boat like this. Only Fabio can do it. I'm running them so well. I'm totally, so that's great. I'm really much more happy than for Argentina, that it was for the first time a live show, for all the people that have been working and trust on myself on this project, especially Fabio.
The international flavor continues. The Japanese win the open class.
This is the driver of the Katana, and we want to congratulate you on a very, very fine race.
Thank you very much.
Happiness for Bobby Moore and the entire crew of Katana. They're busy throwing each other in the water back there, Bobby.
Yeah, I hope I don't get into that tussle. I tell you, I've had enough for today.
Yeah, how was it out there?
It was a tough day, really. It was, we ran hard from the start. We never looked back until about the 12th lap. I pulled back a little bit then after Steve Curtis went down in the Brooks boat. Up to that point, we run as hard as we could run.
After winning round 1 earlier this week, it wasn't to be today for the Alcone team.
Between turns 1 and 2, we caught a left sponsor and we barrel rolled a couple of times. Landed right side up, fortunately. We didn't have that much damage, but one of our engines did get wet, so we just thought we'd just kind of gather our thoughts together and head on back in.
A fine effort today for the Restored team in the production class. They're the winners.
I want you to know it was unbelievable. We had a great start. The boat ran absolutely perfect. The water was unbelievable. I've never raced in such messy water, but it was an absolute great time.
Well, we've talked a lot this race about the combination of the sanctioning bodies, bringing them all together here in Key West. And the man responsible for the impossible dream is John Carbonell. And John, I congratulate you. It was a great race and one that a lot of the guys just thoroughly enjoyed.
Thank you, Dick. It was my pleasure to be able to run this event. It's the largest ever in the history of Offshore, and the racers did a terrific job. With the amount of boats that we had on the course at one time, it was fantastic racing.
And it was a great spectator race. This Key West site is just fantastic.
Yeah, when you could see the whites of their eyes when they're going by you, that's pretty close.
You have to be thinking already that there are things that can be done. This sport is growing, and this has only helped it.
Definitely. We had a live uplink to Argentina, first time that's ever been done with the sport, and from what I understand, that was a major plus because it went across perfect.
Well, Jim, as we look at the final results for all of the classes, this has been a race that's had just about every element you could imagine in it.
Not only that, but it is the largest fleet ever to race, and it's amazing that 3 organizations got together in cooperation for a total of 148 boats that were entered, and about 139 actually started.
And out of that 139, we want to point out one particular outstanding performance. He is an award winner, and that's Daniele Scioli from Argentina. As you know, earlier in the week, that boat had a near disastrous crash. They brought the boat back, cleaned up the engines and what have you. So Pierre Cardin Watches presents Key West World Championship Racing's Outstanding Performance Award, sponsored by the Ocean Key House, to Daniele Scioli, as you just saw there, near disastrous crash.
And, of course, kudos to Fabio Buzzi, the Italian who handled the throttles for the Argentinian team today. And that broadcast went live back to Argentina. Now let's go to Dick Griffin.
What is the experience like out there? Is it truly the high that we hear about?
It's actually visiting God for a minute. Sometimes it's a life or death situation. You feel like that, living on the edge.
Jim, it'll definitely go down as a case for history because this was the largest fleet ever assembled for offshore powerboat racing. And it says a lot about what the future holds for this sport as it continues to grow not only in the United States but throughout the world. After all, this was truly an international field. World champions, true world champions, have been proclaimed. They leave Key West with their championships and they hold them high and proud. From Key West, Florida, for Jim Hendrick, I'm Dick Crippen. So long. The 1994 Key West World Superboat Championship has been brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West, the real Florida. Promotional consideration by Pier House. For your next visit to Key West, make it the Pier House. Fine dining, private beach, and the perfect place to conk out. For reservations, 1-800-327-8340. This has been a production of CPN Sports in association with ESPN.